So we want to deal with this thing and say, let us allow you to come in legally. This is not to go and invite and say, just come and run us over. No.
It means you are not saying open borders.
No. We're not saying that. We are saying we recognize the challenge. Let us deploy strategies and approaches that are appropriately fashioned to deal with, so that they do not pose a security risk to us and to our people. Then they can be within the law. They can be controlled either by way of a temporary work and residence permit.
This is what the new Botswana president has suggested to Zimbabweans, that they want to legalize Zimbabweans that are in Botswana. But before we listen to the president, I want to tell you about Botle Buhle Brands. Botle Buhle Brands is a brand yakada ngufana nezvakaita vana Evoni, vana Avroy, chichichichi. But these ones vanotengesa ma products avo vari muno muZimbabwe. Vane distribution yavo yavari kuvaka, so that vanokwanisa kunge vachitenga ma products vichitengesa. Saka kana uripo uda kujoina Botle Buhle Brands, inzwa kuna Loveness achitaura about this product. Then tobva tapinda mu video yanga achitaurwa na president wekuBotswana.
Do you want to make money in Zimbabwe? Are you struggling to make ends meet? Do you want a side hustle that pays your bills? Do you have problems like high sugar, high blood pressure, or any other chronic disease?
Weights nema products akawanda kuBotle Buhle Brands anobatsira kurapa BP, sugar, madzimai kudetox, kwavarume kudetoxa, inobatsira for vanhu vane BP kuti varapike zvakanaka, blood circulation ichifambisa kufamba kweropa mukati memuviri. I am manager Loveness Muzuwa, Botle Buhle manager. Company yedu yakanakira kuti tinotenga nema discounts. Watenga nema discounts, you are able to buy and sell. Zvakanakira kune madzimai kuwana business iri kutenga ma products arimo muchitanga nekutengesa. Ine ma quality products akanaka chaizvo, akasimba. Company iri South Africa. Tinotenga ma products ariko achiuya kuno in a 1 week time anenge achinge adzoka. But now we have blessed tine distribution muno under register distribution. Our warehouse is being built. Next year tinenge takuwana ma products readily available. So it's better for you to join. Uwane basa rinokubatsira rinokushandira kumhuri yako mune ramangwana.
The issue of Zimbabwe.
Yeah. We've got to approach the issue of Zimbabwe somewhat dispassionately. Leave our emotions out of it and deal with the facts. What are the facts? The facts are there is, without any doubt, an influx of people from Zimbabwe into Botswana. They end up taking up the most menial of jobs. As a matter of fact, many of the jobs that they end up taking are jobs that our own people are not desirous. There's no serious appetite on our citizens for these jobs. And there's nothing wrong with not liking a particular job. And therefore, when an opening arises, you're not interested. But we also must acknowledge that there will be somebody else, either out of desperation or whatever reason, who will be interested in taking this job. And so that person comes in, without any doubt. How did this person come in? They came in illegally. But they are doing the job. They are already here. What do? We can choose to spend money and send this person back. The moment you leave this person at the border, they cross back and by the evening they are here. So, are we succeeding? No. How then do we deal with this situation? We could deal with it and when they are illegal like that, because they are hiding, they end up involved in crime. They end up exploited. And this exploitation makes it even more unappealing because they will take this job for next to nothing. And so the employers, those who have these jobs, who are hiring them, prefer them to citizens because the citizen will want more. So there is a demand for people who will work for a pittance. So they themselves are exploited. Why are they exploited? They are outside the protection of the law because in the first place, when they came in, they placed themselves outside the protection of the law. So we want to deal with this thing and say, let us allow you to come in legally. This is not to go and invite and say, just come and run us over. No.
It means you are not saying open borders.
No. We're not saying that. We are saying we recognize the challenge. Let us deploy strategies and approaches that are appropriately fashioned to deal with it so that they do not pose a security risk to us and to our people. Then they can be within the law. They can be controlled either by way of a temporary work and residence permit or a much longer term work and residence permit. We can control, we can manage them, we can account for them.
How are you going to resolve?
From what the president has said, I was trying to pick the brain to understand why did he has that kind of mentality. And ndika realize kuti as an advocate, he must have dealt with some of these issues. Zimbabweans or Zimbabweans who are going in illegally, and then after they run in with the police, some of them, they would then seek the service of a lawyer when they get arrested. And I was just trying to help myself to think, if South Africa or Zambia or other countries that are surrounding Zimbabwe, if they could make the same approach, because let us deal with the facts. The fact is Zimbabweans are fleeing the country. And the countries like UK, what are they doing to the Zimbabweans that are coming to their country? They are legalizing them. But in legalizing them, it means that they are not going to have a problem of illegal foreigners. Of course, if you look at the cumulative numbers when you compare UK and Zimbabwe, it's different. The number in the UK and compared to the number in South Africa is different. But if you make something illegal, it makes it to be expensive. What do I mean by that? Let's say, look at the countries that have legalized cannabis, marijuana, mbanje. These countries, if you check the price of weed, it has become slightly cheaper to buy on the street because it's legal. Whereas the countries that have not legalized it, one is going through illegal borders, it's going through a lot. So there's a lot of profit that needs to be made, and that makes it very, very expensive. But same applies with the permits. If I recall the time when Zimbabweans started getting permits in the ZEP permits, when they were still called the DZP permit back then, you realize that the police didn't have so much work in terms of corruption, of why kwanisa kufamba mu South Africa pasina kana problem sambo kana wazomiswa ndi mapurisa. It was because there was a legal way of doing things. So what I'm trying to say is, if there is legalization of people that are in South Africa, and say, let's run a program whereby we legalize the people that are in Zimbabwe, in South Africa. What the country has, one is, there is going to be harmony between the foreigners and South Africans. Why? Because the Zimbabweans that are legal are going to be having rights. They can stand up together with South Africans to say, look, let's say this restaurant is trying to employ an undocumented person. The Zimbabweans are going to stand up and say, we are not going to allow this, because they will also be having a voice because they are protected legally. So this issue of saying Zimbabweans are taking our jobs will be over, because a South African will come and they can get a job and they can be paid whatever they are paid. A Zimbabwean can also do the same and they can get paid what is equal to a South African, because there is this, this other person is legal, the other person is legal. But the challenge that we have is the legal person who is a South African is being challenged by an illegal person. and that creates hostility. So these are some of the things that I think politicians should think around, because I'm looking at the figure of the Minister of Home Affairs spending 89 million on deporting 19,000 foreigners in a space of less than 4 months. If that money was spent on trying to legalize the people that are in South Africa right now, that would have lessened the problem that people are facing. Yes, there is unemployment, and unemployment is not going to go away. But if you have a problem of illegal people, this is how you solve it. And to some, it might infuriate people, but these are facts. The issue of Zimbabwe getting better, it is still far. And the issue of influx of foreigners is always going to be there. The people that are going to be receiving bribes, they are always there and they are always available. And that is a recipe for disaster. But what do you make of the Botswana president? This is how I feel about him, and I feel that he is right in some way and dealing with this problem